Welcome back to another episode of Influential Games where I share how a video game has affected me and my life. Today we're covering The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64. Ocarina of Time is an incredible game that was released on Nintendo 64 in 1998. It was one of the most influential games back in the late 90s. This was one of those periods where developers were still trying to harness the power of the third dimension. Video games will forever change after the release of this groundbreaking game. However, much of the game's legacy is pretty much lost to a person like me, as I was literally born in the same year this game was released. Most of my peers in my generation have never heard of this game, much less played it. So how did I actually end up playing this game? Well, back in 2012, I constantly found out about the console Nintendo 64. Just a side note, Nintendo 64 is probably my favorite console I never got to own. So during that time, I was doing a lot of research on Nintendo 64 games. During that same year, I managed to discover a slew of great Nintendo 64 games. I'll watch a lot of different top 10 best Nintendo 64 games of all time. I'll go and watch reviews, go and read all the critically acclaimed titles back in that era. And there were multiple contenders to the throne, however, one stands above the rest as the undisputed best. And to this day, it's still the highest rated video game ever on Metacritic. So I went ahead and downloaded it on my Nintendo 64 emulator, and the rest was history. So just to quickly paint the picture, before 2011 and 2012, I wasn't close to being the same gamer I am today. I'm not proud of my game library at all. My single player games mainly consisted of a lot of Game Boy Advance games like Pokemon, Teen Titans, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, the typical casual games you will find in a non-gamer's backlog. Of course, I've also dipped my feet into DS and PSP games. I also had a PC, which was where I spent the most hours indulging in this hobby. Games like Dota 1, Blackshot, League of Legends, Audition was a common craze among my schoolmates and I. And I'm ashamed to say this after so many years have passed, but I've also spent a good amount of time playing Facebook games. Of course, there was also the craze of Minecraft in 2011, which was a very big part of my gaming career. So probably from all these accounts, you can tell that I wasn't a real gamer. I mainly played a lot of casual games. That's why looking back, Ocarina of Time came at the right time in my life. At the point in my life, I never played a better video game. It was the perfect game at the right place at the right time. That's why even back in 2012, I still felt the essence of the game and whatever it was going for. I didn't mind the graphics in 2012, cause back then it still looked beautiful to a guy like me who hasn't had a lot of gaming experience. I didn't mind the camera angles because I haven't played an action-adventure game before. This was the first video game where it legitimately felt like a grand adventure. The following months playing through the game felt so grand and awesome, and it took me quite some time to actually finish the game. And back then I wasn't really good at video games, thus it actually felt difficult to play Ocarina of Time. Clearing one dungeon can take up to 4 hours to finish. If I had to guess, it probably took me close to 60 hours to finish the game. And given at that time, all the previous games I was playing either felt like a distraction or a way to kill time. I've never sunk so much time playing a single player game before. It just goes to show how much the world of Ocarina of Time immersed me. When I finished the game, I had this weird feeling of sadness, as though I'll never ever get back this video game euphoria moment again. Back in 2012 and 2013, it wasn't difficult for me to claim, like many critics, that this was the best game I've ever played, because at that point, it clearly was. It was the single highest quality game I've ever played. And now, it's not difficult for me to claim that this was the sole reason I began loving playing video games. Rather than playing just for the sake of killing time, for the sake of fitting in, I found a game that immersed me with its world, its plots, and its timeless gameplay. It made me a real gamer, someone who would follow the gaming news, get hyped with the newest releases, and someone who would actually spend money on gaming peripherals and whatnot. In the years that followed, as I got more into internet culture, I started to see a lot of more memes, fan arts, and fan projects from this amazing game. And I got to see a lot of people's interpretation and retrospective. That's when my appreciation for this game grew to a new height. Alright guys, I'll be covering a bit of the story, so this is a story spoiler for those who haven't played Ocarina of Time yet. You can't really discuss Ocarina of Time without talking about the concept of time and how they design the game such that everything you interact with has that theme. But adventure starts as young Link. Your adventure was always very lighthearted and joyous and playful. You get to meet so many of your friends and do some of the most dorky stuff. But then, the sudden change in tone when you become an adult, it is immediately noticeable. People look and treat you differently, and all of a sudden, they give you more responsibility, and all the shit that you could do as children will no longer be tolerated anymore. The tone was no longer lighthearted and playful. It became way more serious, and the stakes have never been higher. It's kind of like real life, isn't it? Where I would like to share one of my favorite videos regarding the themes of Ocarina of Time. One of the most mind-blowing part was when he dissected the part about the sages, that each sage represents a different part of growing up. Friend, family, romance, loyalty, and sex. All things we have to grapple with when we inevitably grow up. The duality of innocence childhood and the stress and anxiety of being a teen really resonated with me deeply. The amount of detail in the themes is rare to find even in the amazing games following this game's release. It is a literal coming of age story that truly transcends time. If the great gameplay and puzzles were the reasons why I liked it as a kid, the amazing stories and themes and subtext are the reason why I liked it as an adult. I turned 22 this year and am going to be 23 soon. Having just been released from the army, my life as an adult has finally slowly begun. Just like Link, my choices now have consequences, and I can't be as carefree as before. The mirroring of its plot and its theme is the reason why it still has an impact on me to this day. The impact of this game cannot be understated. If not for this game, I'll probably still be playing all of the free-to-play garbage out there. Games that have no meaning and adds no meaning. After all, I did spend a good deal of my childhood playing them. Because of this one game, I've also become a huge Zelda fan over the years. I've played many of its amazing titles. But one question still stands. Is this game still my favorite video game of all time? Well, while doing this episode, I went back to revisit the game, and I'm truly sad to say the game has not held up to what I imagined it to be. The most jarring aspect is the camera and the frame rate. As of right now, the best way to play this game is on Nintendo 3DS, as it has better frame rate and better controls, as well as containing the Masterclass. I really hope Nintendo will make an actual HD remake of this game, as this game means so much to me, and I would love to experience it as though I was a kid again. Hey guys, if you like this video, please hit the like button and press the subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of the year, so any help will be appreciated to the max. And if you're interested in knowing what's my top 10 video games of all time, you can please watch this video next.